Guys, we've got a great guest here today. Coach, I want to thank you before we get started for coming on. You're a coach that we've wanted to get on here for a while, and it was kind of a resounding approval when they heard that Coach Stu Venable, strength and conditioning coach at Lincoln High School, would be the guest. So, Coach, I want to thank you so much for being on. I'm very excited for this next hour or so that we can kind of just talk and get to know each other and just have the presence of all these great coaches. So thank you so much for being on.
Absolutely. Coach Garrish, it's my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope not to bore you too much, but I've been looking forward to this as well.
See, that's a joke, and I laugh, Coach. See, I'm right with it.
You are on it.
Yes, sir. Hey, I want to start with a couple of my questions before we open up the floor, and I'll make sure I announce when the floor is kind of open. Just so that we can get to some of the main points, some of the questions that have been asked previously, and kind of the most common questions, and make sure we get to that on the front end. First question, if you want, you can explain a little bit more about yourself, but I also want to hear about the makeup of Lincoln High School, what those demographics look like, who your students are, what they look like as ninth graders coming in, what you want them to look like as 12th graders or college freshmen going out. What are their home experiences, things of that nature. And then you can explain on the back end a little bit about your setup with Lincoln High School District.
Okay. Lincoln High, if there was any inner city school in this town, in Lincoln, Lincoln High would be it. We have 6 high schools that are public and then 2 private high schools. We're Class A. We have about 2,000 students. We have students from about 40 different nationalities, speaking almost 50 different languages just at Lincoln High School. So a big diversity of population, but also academically, we have the only IB program in the district. We also have AP students, but we probably have one of the largest special education programs as well. Like I said, we're really low on the socioeconomic ladder. So our kids come from very poor backgrounds. They struggle financially, they struggle socially, and they have very difficult home lives. Easily, the majority of them are in single parent homes. I think last I checked, we had almost 40 students that were living in the homeless shelter in Lincoln. And there's only 250,000 people in this town.
Wow. That's incredible. And it sounds, trust me, from our previous guests, that's a significantly different setting probably than most of us are going through and experiencing with our students. Right. Can you explain, from a strength and conditioning perspective, what is their movement competency when they first start? What do they have kind of in their pocket before they get to you, not literally, figuratively, from a movement, from a strength and conditioning standpoint, or are they a clean slate?
Yeah, literally and figuratively, they have nothing. They are pretty much a clean slate. We have a lot of students that come here, and the only thing they've done in their life is maybe play soccer at most. The majority of them, Lincoln is a hub for immigrants, and that's why we have such diversity. So Catholic Services, some other organizations, when there are immigrants coming from other countries, most of them fleeing for their lives, they pick them up and they put them in different hubs. And I think there's one in Texas. I think there's one in Chicago. I think Minnesota. I think LA. But 5 or 6 hubs in the entire United States, and Lincoln, Nebraska just happens to be one. And like I said, most of the students, when we get them, immigrants, they've never participated in anything. And the kids that are born and raised here, with their difficult home lives, most of them have only played maybe organized athletics at school, but no competitive leagues or anything like that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, do you see athletes from other high schools? Do you see coaches from other high schools? What's your responsibility as far as the school district goes?
That's interesting. I'll try to make this as brief as possible, but concise. When I initially arrived here in Lincoln, I was 3 years into my exercise science degree. So when I retired from the penitentiary, I figured, well, I'll just go to Lincoln and be a high school strength coach and everything will be fine. But there were no high school strength coaches here in Nebraska, which to me didn't really make any sense since Coach Epley started it all here at UNL. So I went to the district and said, hey, I'm looking for a high school strength coach position. They explained to me there was none, that my best route was to go PE and hope somebody would be smart enough to put me in the weight room. So I had to change my major, lost 17 credits, finish out that last year of college, which took a year and a half, and then do a year to get my teaching certificate to end up with a PE degree, which I wasn't too excited about initially, but it was what I needed to do to get in the school system.
Sure.
During that time, the curriculum advisor for the district, she retired and they rehired somebody else. And the man that they hired, Dr. Avey, he was all for strength and conditioning. So when he came on board, he actually emailed me before he moved into his office and said, hey, I want to get a curriculum squared away for the entire district. He had been a assistant AD at one of the high schools. And he said that basically we looked like the Wild Wild West, that everybody was just doing their own thing, that a squat at Lincoln High was different from a squat at North Star, was different from Southwest, and he wanted all of us to be on the same sheet of music. So he put me as the lead person on the curriculum development team. Cool. And brought us all together, and we spent all of last semester working on the curriculum, and then we're going to start implementing it this semester. But I could have never did that without Patrick McHenry. He was the one that sent me his curriculum from out there in Colorado. So that was our foundation in which we used to get our curriculum.
Very cool. Now, Coach, you hit a buzzword that I'm sure a lot of people, if they didn't see my post on the Facebook page, you said penitentiary. Can you explain what your setup was before you were at Lincoln?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah. So when I left high school as a kid, 18 years old, I went into the United States Army. I did 7 years in the Army. And then when I came out, I started working for this Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And I worked in California and in Phoenix, Arizona. And then I moved to the United States Penitentiary in Leavenworth, and I worked another 17 years. So I retired from there and used my military time with my federal time, and I just retired with 30 years. So once that career is done, I said, now I can do what I really love to do. And lo and behold, people will pay you to do the strength coach thing. And the whole time I was in both the service and the Department of Justice, I was training people on the side. I got started doing this in the Army, training soldiers, which I think now you call tactical coaches. Back then, it was just the guy training soldiers. Yeah. And they were paying me. So as a private, training other people, and they were giving me money, I was like, hey, this is a pretty good business. When I went to the penitentiary, I was training inmates. So I was like, hey, I went from a soldier's coach to a convict coach. And from there to a private school in Kansas. And then I went to Mid-American Nazarene University, and I interned under Coach Tom Cross, and then Coach Whitney Rodden. And I did that until I retired in 2012 and came here.
Very cool. Now, Coach, I've got a question kind of off script from what we were planning. How did that wealth of experience, especially with very, very different trainees, how does that make you the coach that you are today? And how does that help you meet your student athletes where they're at as people from a coaching perspective?
Well, with all of those things I just told you, training soldiers and getting them ready to go to combat is really a surreal experience.
Sure.
So you have that demographic, and then you compare that to, or contrast that to, training high school kids, training collegiate athletes. I was in the private sector for a while, ran my own sports performance center. I trained small kids. My wife and I, from the age of 7 till about 16, training those kids, and then coming to where I am now at Lincoln High with this type of kid that I'm working with now. It gave me quite a wide range of people to see. And with all of those groups, you had to meet them where they are. You know, the little kids wanted to have fun. The soldiers knew that they had to be in shape for combat. Even the inmates, I mean, they wanted, with them, it's life or death. So what we were doing, if they got into a fight or somebody's chasing them with a knife or they chasing somebody else, it had to work. And I mean, as weird as that sounds, when I had inmates coming back to me and said, "Hey V, that stuff you doing, man, that's good stuff." Because so and so and so and so got into a fight. He stabbed him 3 times, and he kept fighting, man. He didn't even die. He didn't stop. So, all of that is feedback. As morbid as that is, it's still feedback.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Coach, switching gears a little bit, I want to hear. Tell us a little bit about programming considerations, and I know this can get very detailed. You can get as detailed as you'd like, or as minimal as you'd like. Just in explaining your considerations, what you're looking for in your athletes. I know you were a competitive powerlifter and weightlifter, both at one point in your life. And how does that carry into your programming?
Yeah, I was a competitive weightlifter for 10 years and competitive powerlifter for 16 years. I try not to bring my own biases in there, but of course, you cannot help but do that. But sure. Even with all my coaches, when I was interning under Coach Cross, I mean, Coach Cross has been a strength coach for 56 years. And I'm interning under him. And his big thing was we do an explosive lift first. So it's always an Olympic lift. And then we do some type of squat. He didn't care what. So you clean one day, you back squat one day, you snatch one day, you front squat the next day. He didn't care. There's always explosive lift. And then there's a some type of squat, which was a strength movement. And he said everything else after that was gravy. So for a while, that's all I knew. When sure. That made the most sense to me, I thought that was the way to go. And my weightlifting coach, strictly weightlifting coach, Boris Erman, he's from the Soviet Union, and he was on the Russian weightlifting team. He never made it to the Olympics, but his whole thing is everything is snatch and jerk and clean all the time. So those biases stuck with me for a long time. And I know people always say, we're not training weightlifters, we're training athletes. I get that. But all the lifts we do comes from only 3 disciplines. You're either doing a powerlifting movement, a weightlifting movement, or a bodybuilding movement. Sure. Or if you're doing some kind of odd implements, then like a lot of people now, then you're doing a strongman movement. So regardless of what you're doing, we're all training athletes, but the movements you use, they're either gonna be a weightlifting, a powerlifting, a bodybuilding, if supplementary stuff, or strongman.
I like that, Coach. Now did you say powerlifting 16, weightlifting
yes.
10? Was there any? Sorry, go ahead.
I said, yeah, powerlifting first and then weightlifting. Okay. And to look back on that, I did that backwards. I should have did the weightlifting first and then the powerlifting, because the powerlifting hurt me for weightlifting.
No, I was wondering if you said and then. I was wondering if there was ever any overlap there. And you not overlap with the powerlifting and the weightlifting. When I stopped powerlifting, full disclosure, I did CrossFit for about 4 months, almost 6. And I got weak as a kitten. So I stopped it. I was like, hey, this is great. My workout is done in 30 minutes and I can take a shower, get lunch, and get back in the pen before my lunch hour is up. Yeah. But after about 4 months of that, I mean, literally, when I couldn't pull 500 off the floor anymore, I couldn't deadlift. I said, I'm done with this. I'm done. And I was done with it. So I went from that to boxing, and I boxed for, I trained for almost 2 years. I had 2 fights. I won both of them. And then I retired from amateur boxing. And my wife said, you're too stupid to let people hit you in the head for free. Stop it. So the boxing was over. Sure. And that's when I started the Olympic weightlifting, because I liked it from when I was doing CrossFit. I liked the Olympic lifts. I wasn't very good at it, but I liked it. So I started doing that. And I was competitive just because I was strong, not because my technique was that great. And then that went on until I just stopped that last year. Okay, very cool. That's good stuff, Coach. Thank you. From Coach G, and this was also a question I had, so it kind of just works this way. Your assessment or your testing protocol, we want to hear about it, both your lifting from a testing standpoint, but also if you have a movement assessment that you adhere to or abide by, or if you've created, or if you assess movement at all.
Yeah, so let's hit the movement assessment first.
Sure.
I got certified in functional movement screen, I think it was like 2008, something like that. But when I came back with it, it wasn't applicable to what I had. I had like 40 people in the class, and there was nothing I could really do with the functional movement screen being by myself with 40 people. So it didn't work well. I mean, I knew it worked well on the individual basis, but not with the masses like that. So I scrapped that and didn't do anything for a while. And I was like Coach Paff said, Coach has been screening people for years. You watch a move every day. That's been our screen for the last, 50 years. So I'm going to go with that, right? So I went with that for the longest. And then I was talking to, is it Coach Schofield? I believe it was Coach Schofield. And he put me in touch with Coach Brewer. And then I got the dynamic movement assessment. And I've been doing that with a select group of my athletes.
Okay.
The advanced weightlifting class, because I only have one advanced weightlifting class. We've been using that with them. But this semester, we're going to use that with all the weight training classes, not just the advanced lifters.
Gotcha.
But when I was in New Orleans, Coach Schofield was telling me about using the functional movement screen as well, but you can do it with one movement at a time, not trying to knock out the entire screen.
Right. Very cool. Now I've got a question for you on how you had it with your advanced weight training class or advanced weightlifting class would go through your assessment. Was there a way that you progressed your younger students to that point? Or was it kind of just not heavily assessed in those prerequisite courses and then heavily assessed or just assessed in the advanced courses? Does that make sense? Does my question make sense?
No, because I wasn't using them in the other courses. So
you were using nothing at all? Okay,
no,
that was really all the question was.
Okay.
Do you have an ATC on campus?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do have an ATC. Every school has one.
Okay.
Our relationship isn't as well as it could be.
All right. Now, so is there does that ATC help you in your movement assessment at all? Do you guys have a communication whatsoever, or is the communication pretty poor too?
Yeah, we have communication. I've always had really good relationships with our athletic trainers at MNU. I mean, we worked hand in hand. We were so close with our AT that we all go and eat lunch together. We'll hang out maybe on the weekend together. We'd always do something together. So we had a really good relationship at school, but our relationship bled over into, I say, in our personal lives, that we all got along so well together. So I just assumed I would always get along with all my athletic trainers. My little brother is he's down at New Smyrna High School. He's an athletic trainer. So I get along great with those people, but for some reason, the one here and I, we speak to each other. We're cordial. And if something's wrong with one of the kids and I send them over, she'll look at them. But for doing the assessments, I haven't been able to get her to do that. But the district hired 2 sports performance coaches, one for each of the 3 high schools, and the one that's assigned to Lincoln High, and he has 2 other high schools. Matt and I, we've talked. And he's going to see if he can talk to her and then get the ATs at each school to start assessing the students. And if that's a district mandate, then they have to do it, as opposed to me trying to talk her into it. It'll be an easier path.
Excellent. All right. That sounds good. So when a lot of coaches heard that you were going to be the next guest, I think one of the biggest questions, everyone was really excited because they see what you're posting through social media. And they also see some, pretty sharp facility and what seems like some technology backing. So my question to you is, what technology are you using now, if any, and what does that look like in your weight room?
I would say that the biggest thing we're using at my high school, at Lincoln High, is the Elite Form. We have the weight room is about 4,500 square feet. We have 20 racks, 20 platforms. We have 20 male bars, 20 female bars, about 15, 18 technique bars. We have a bumper plates for each rack. So it's a nice setup. So the Elite Form is the biggest thing we got going. I mean, that's you're talking about $125,000 worth of equipment, counting the software. And that was given to us.
Wow.
Like I said, because of the income level of our classes, of our athletes, of our community, there's no way we could have ever afforded to purchase Elite Form. And the bumper plates as well. A pro football player, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head because it happened before I got there, gave us the bumper plates. Wow. Elite Form, the guy that started that company, he went to high school at Lincoln High. So he gave back to his high school, and that's why we ended up there.
Very
So
nice.
it's a sweet deal. You know, we use huddle technique. I use Coach's Eye. Yes, I am on Twitter now, Facebook and Instagram. But I tell you, I'm like Coach Vanderbush when it comes to technology, man. At 53 years of age, you can miss me with that. But
Yes,
the kids like it.
Absolutely.
So that's why I do it.
Absolutely.
But I had to get my son to set it up for me. My Facebook account, my Twitter and Instagram, my son had to set all that up. And then when I started, I have one of my student coaches do the videotaping most of the time because I'm busy coaching them up. Sometimes I videotape, but most of the time I have student coaches. So we have student assistant in every class, and they do the videotape. And then I get the students to go ahead and I'll tell them, put this video on, put that video on, and they'll load it for me. Wow. Otherwise, I'd be completely lost.
That sounds like a great idea, because sometimes you get caught up in, am I coaching or am I recording? Because we like to use film quite a bit from a promotion and from a, you know, just promoting our athletes, but also we like to use it to look at technique. But you want to be present there with the athletes. So I think that's a great idea. Let's see. The next question is going to come from Coach Rob, and he's curious what could we do to get more coaches at the high school level certified CSCS?
And that is a tough question, because, you know, Rob and I, Rob is the director of our state board, and I'm a member of the board, and that's something we are struggling with right now. I think, and Rob will correct me if I'm wrong, we have 7 or 9 high school coaches in the state of Nebraska that are certified. And
said 9.
You know, when you talk to him, the big thing is, he said 9?
9, yes, sir.
Yeah, we got 9 in the entire state. And when you talk to coaches, the big thing, the people that would like to do it, what they said was finances is the big thing. They don't want to pay that much. But Dr. Avey, the curriculum specialist, he just put out 2 weeks ago that the district is willing to cover at least half that cost, if not all of that cost, of the people that are interested. But they have to show, you know, that they're truly interested and they're willing to put forth the effort to do this. So I think financially, if we help him, that would be good. But he also wanted some study groups so he could, you know, better their chances of passing the exam.
Sure.
So I think that's 2 things we could do: help him pay for it, and then help him prep for it.
Very cool. Coach, I wanted to ask, I think I missed this question. I see quite a bit from a competition standpoint with your athletes. That's one of the things you promote through social media significantly. What kind of competitive meets are y'all competing in? Is it powerlifting? Is it weightlifting? Where are you going? What does that look like?
I just started the powerlifting team last year. Initially, when I started, it was a way to keep our athletes strong in the off season, specifically the football players. So the athletes that weren't playing 3 sports, the ones that weren't wrestling or doing basketball in the winter, it was a good avenue for them. It would get them in the weight room with me more. I could see them more, spend more time with them, and I could keep them strong. And they like competing. I mean, naturally, athletes like competing. So it wasn't a tough sell. I got the administration to approve it. Had the first meeting. I think I had 33 kids come down first time. And we went to 3 meets, 4 meets last year. So, and they're chomping at the bit to do it again this year. Of course, we'll wait until football season is over. But this year, I want to start an Olympic weightlifting team. So that way I can take them to powerlifting meets and weightlifting meets.
Very cool. That's excellent stuff. The next question is coming from Coach Vanderbush. He says, we see a lot of books in the background, and we're going to assume you're a big reader. What are a few of the most influential books that you've read, or a book or 2, or books that are worth reading that maybe we haven't heard of?
And I have 5 shelves back there, but I have a wooden shelf over here to my right with my best books, or my most favorite books. Of course, I got this, you know, Super Training, Bigger, Faster, Stronger, periodization training for sports, Coach Mike Boyle's functional training, NSCA journal, without a doubt. Everything I could get from Dr. Kramer, Dr. Avery Fagenbaum, and I have all of the Russian translated weightlifting manuals. I think it's about 12 of those. Applied Sprint, I think it's Applied Sprinting Mechanics is the last book I got from James the Thinker Smith. That was the last book I got dealing with as far as strength and conditioning. But yesterday I picked up a book, Lead for God's Sake, and I just started it last night. So that's a pretty interesting book too. So yeah, I read a lot.
Excellent. Outstanding. Thank you, Coach. We see, getting back to the point of social media, another thing that I've seen myself in your social media presence is a significant female participation rate. So the question I have for you is, what have you done to increase that female participation on Lincoln High's campus?
One of the first things the football coach told me when I got here, the head football coach, he said, we have to change the culture. And the other thing he said was, we need to get more people in the weight room. But there was only males in the weight room, and there were 2 females, and they had been banished to the corner rack in the back. So I went to talk to them to say, hey, how come there are not more young ladies in here? And they said, well, they wouldn't let us in here. Weight room is just for the football players. I said, well, that's ridiculous. And then they said, well, last year there was no female, so at least this year it's 2 of us. So I said, everybody's welcome. Tell all your friends they're welcome. And then I went to the sport coaches, specifically the swimming coach, the basketball and the softball coach, the tennis and the golf coach. And then I went to the cheerleading coach and the Pomerlinks, the dancers, and talked to them. And the first time I talked to them, the cheerleading coach said, oh, we can come to the weight room? And I said, yes, ma'am, absolutely. And she brought 25 young ladies to the weight room. Nice. Like within that first week of summer strength and conditioning. And then the Pomerlinks coach went, when we heard cheerleaders coming, so we're coming, and she came in with another dozen. So once they started coming, then all the I won't say all the females, because it's not all the females, but more and more of the females are coming. So every year, every semester is continuing to grow.
Excellent. That's outstanding. Coach RJ asked, football season's upon us. How are you transitioning from summer prep through training camp and into in-season workouts?
We finished summer strength and conditioning last Friday. That was the last day. And we have this week off. The football coaches have them now, and they did conditioning Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They will have 4-day weekend, and then they start practice officially on Monday. I don't get to touch them until we go back to school, which is on the 15th. And then I'll go to twice a week. But the majority of them, 90% of the football players are in a class, a weightlifting class, which works out great because right after school, they go to football practice from 3:15 to 5:15. So they're done anyway. So I try to give them an advanced weightlifting class, which is second period during the day. I have them all day. Some of them can't make it that period. I get them in another class, but they do their weight training during the day. And then the conditioning, of course, they'll get from practice and scrimmage, 7-on-7, whatever they got going on now. Absolutely.
Coach G asked in relation to that, how do you handle training on game days? Is there any?
There hasn't been. Okay. There always has been for me, but at Lincoln High, there hasn't been. And I guess what I want y'all to understand is I've only been at Lincoln High a year and a half as a salary teacher, and I did a semester of student training before then. So I only have 2 years at Lincoln High. Initially, my first semester, I wasn't allowed any weight training classes. And then because the football coaches thought that they deserved all the weight training classes because they were football coaches. And then I got 2 weight training classes. And then last semester it was 3 weight training classes. This semester will be the first time I'll have all 5 weight training classes. So the more that I got, the better I can control what I'm doing for the athlete. Sure. For instance, they weren't doing any plyometrics, any running mechanics, any change of direction, no speed work, nothing before I got there. And we just started my first summer there. We did it, and then we did nothing for the school year. And then this summer we started doing it again. And I've talked the athletic director into putting turf up in the east balcony of one of the basketball gyms so we can do that during the school year. So now we're lifting 3 days a week, and then we're doing speed, agility, quickness, or change of direction 2 days a week, as opposed to let's lift 4 days and then shoot basketball on the 5th.
Right. Gotcha. So is that now, so are you lifting Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and SAQ is going to be Tuesday, Thursday?
Yes, for for out of season athletes, for in season athletes, it'd be lifting Tuesday, Thursday, and then SAQ Monday, Wednesday, and then still going over this with the football coach about letting us lift Friday.
Okay.
So far, he's agreed to coming in Saturday morning when they do film anyway, and I can do a flush with him so I can get a little workout from them having the game the night before. So he's agreed to that. I haven't gotten him totally to buy into lifting on Friday game day.
Okay, and this is back to a personal question, and maybe since football season's kind of on us, what would that Saturday look like for you ideally? What are you looking to get out of them? What are you looking to flush out of them? Because we talked about before we were on air, that's all I'm going to have with our facility being off campus for a few more months. All I'm going to have with them is Saturday. So I'm kind of thinking throughout my own books what we can get out of them, what we can or what we should avoid from trying to get out of them.
Yeah, I want to keep the reps low. And initially, I was thinking of keeping the weight, because this is what I did at Mid-American Nazarene. We're always doing like 3 sets of 3, 4 sets of 2.
Okay.
And we do, again, we do some type of Olympic lift, and then we do some kind of lower body lift.
Right.
Finish up maybe with jump rope, something like that. And then a mobility drill and get them out of that. They wouldn't be there any longer than 30 minutes. So if you did 3 sets of 3 with cleans, 3 sets of 3 with back squat, and then jump ropes for 5 minutes, we'd go through 1 or 2 mobility drills, and then you're out of there.
Gotcha.
That would be fine. So that's what it's looking like. I talked to a friend of mine that's at Baylor, and he was also a grad assistant at MENU with me to make sure we're still on the same sheet of music.
Sure.
He said that they dropped the reps at Baylor, but they dropped the intensity as well.
Okay.
So whereas MENU, we dropped the reps down to doubles and triples, we kept the intensity 80, 85, maybe sometimes touching 90.
Okay.
Depends on how much playing time they got.
Right.
He said at Baylor, they keep the intensity low and the reps low.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that might be something I want to entertain and see how that goes this year.
Okay, excellent. That's something I want to keep tabs on, Coach. That's probably something I'll bother you about in the next few weeks.
Oh, absolutely. No problem.
Coach Ficker wants to know, what advice would you have for a strength coach who's starting a program from scratch?
Not to overcomplicate it. The tier system has been my bread and butter for years. You know, when I met Coach House years ago, I just thought that was the cat's meow. Because, you know, just like Dr. Avey said about the district all over the place, as strength coaches, everybody was doing their own thing. So when Coach Ken came out with the tier system, it made sense. It gave us an organized way to structure our workouts, but it's still enough leeway that you can have your own input in it. So it was great. So we stayed with the tier system for years. So if you're just getting started, I say keep it simple. And the tier system is nice and as simple as you want to be or complicated as you want to get. It's easy for me to teach too, because when I teach program design in my advanced weightlifting course to my kids, I teach them the tier strength system of training. When I teach the sport coaches and the other PE teachers program design, I mean, if you look at our curriculum now, and it's on a LibGuide on the computer, we have the tier system as our example. Now we do other things. I've done Jim Wendland's 5-3-1 doing a strength phase. I have done Cal Dietz, love him to death, triphasic training. He's huge with us. At this level with novice athletes, developing athletes, everything works. I mean, I don't know anybody personally that have tried something and said, my kids won't get any better. Dr. Avery Fagenbaum told me at KU years ago, he said, if you threw a bunch of dumbbells in the backyard and kicked the kid out there and locked them out there for 2 months, they would get stronger. You can't mess this up. Yeah. But the best thing for a new coach is don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple and watch your kids.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Coach. Back to Coach Johnson. How many levels of classes do you have in school? And can or would the students repeat them?
Only beginning and advanced weight training. That's all we have. And yes, they can repeat them and they still get credits for them. The only prereq to advance that's written in the book is you must pass beginning weight training to go to advanced. However, we have convinced the counselors to give us the right to have the say-so of who's allowed in that advanced weight training class. I wish we had it like Coach Venable had, so I can say, hey, these are the kids I want. But unfortunately, we get a lot of kids in there that aren't athletes, so we didn't particularly they're not ready for what we're doing in there. We get that a lot of the time. We have a Fitness for Life class that's mandatory for freshmen. And before they allowed me to have 5 weight training classes like I will this summer, this next semester, I would bring my Fitness for Life class in the weight training room. So I kind of made a 3rd class that got weight training as well, but we only have 1 advanced and the rest are beginning weight training.
Gotcha. Very cool. Coach, a question for myself. If you would be so kind, and if you have something on the top of your mind or the front of your mind, a take home that you had from New Orleans and the NSCA National Conference, kind of this can be our review of it. We had a preview of it with Coach Rob. Was there something there that really struck home, or something that you took home with you that might, help out some of the coaches that weren't able to make it?
The thing that stuck with me the most was Coach Mack's class, his presentation on branding yourself. And I never looked at it that way. Coach Hootie in Kansas just did a seminar on branding. I didn't go to it. I wish I had of. But when I was sitting in Coach Mack's class and he was talking about don't worry so much about the letter that's on your chest. Worry about getting out there and doing what you do and make yourself available for the kids and self-brand, so that if that day comes and somebody gives you the boot and kicks you to the curb, somebody else will be there to pick you up.
Absolutely.
I mean, that really stuck with me because, for years, I was at MNU. I associated myself with MNU. That was on our shirt sleeve, MNU, and now it's Lincoln High. That's across our chest, Lincoln High. But, at the end of the day, there are kids at every school in the district. There are kids in Lincoln and Omaha. So as long as I keep doing what I'm doing and making a connection with the kids. So I say branding yourself was the thing that resonated with me more than anything else.
Excellent. Back to scheduling throughout the day from Coach Ficker. Is there any after-school sessions that you make available for your athletes? Is that available for athletes that can't fit the class in? Do some, over and beyond, above and beyond athletes, will they train in your class and come by after? What does that look like after school for you?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes. To answer that, yes, there is after school weight training. The 8th period ends at 3:05, and I'm in the weight room at 3:15 for after school strength conditioning. It goes for 2 hours. And it's supposed to be for the kids that can't get in a weight training class for whatever reason, scheduling conflicts, whatever. But we get a lot of kids that have a weight training class and they want to come back and get another workout.
Sure.
The district performance coach, Matt Birch, and I, we wanted to make it a little more structured because 15, 16-year-old boys want to bench press and bicep curl. So we wanted to make it more structured. So we said, just like we have a workout program for the semester for the classes, we're going to do it for after school. And the kids held out on me. They just stopped showing. And we said, okay, fine, total line. So nobody showed. It was just us. And this went on for about 2 weeks. And the athletic director says, Stu, we're not going to do this. He said, we want our kids to have a place to go somewhere safe. And if they're not in this weight room, they're out in the streets. So I know what you want to do, and I like that, but we got to get them back in the weight room. So I kind of compromised with him. I said, look, this is a program we have. You have to knock out this before you go and do that.
Sure.
And they start showing back up. And I mean, we'll get anywhere from 90 to I think 130 were the most we had at any one time after school. But that weight room is pretty packed.
Outstanding. That's great, Coach. Coach G wants to know, and this will be the last question that I make available, and then we'll kind of close out with my own questions because I know Coach has got is a busy man, and he's going to hang out for a few minutes to talk to us off the record. Coach G wants to know if you're doing anything with nutrition or you're trying to.
Yes, to answer that short, yes, I'm trying to. I had a nutritionist from the university. The university makes a lot of things really easy for me, and I really appreciate that. I had a nutritionist from the university come by last semester. I had a nutritionist from I believe it's St. Elizabeth's Hospital, come by last semester. And on the Friday, normally Fridays is okay, we're going to the gym and shoot basketball day. We kind of turn that into, okay, let's have this into an information session, a class. So I had 2 nutritionists come by last semester. We have handouts. Patrick McHenry sent me this stuff from Gatorade, you know, the little leaflets, kind of like we had in New Orleans on the table when Gatorade provided that training for us on that table. They had, you know, if a kid's a vegan, if a kid's an athlete, how does she eat? So he sent me that stuff. That's on my bulletin board. The thing is that our kids don't have money. So we have, like, the backpack program is in full effect. Every Wednesday, the whatever program in town, they come to the cafeteria and there's food there. Kid doesn't have to sign anything. You don't have to show any financial statements. None. Kid just walks in there and they come out with about 2 bags of groceries apiece. No questions asked. The good part is we feed them. The bad part is a lot of times they walk out with cupcakes and donuts and muffins and sugary cereal. But it's better than not eating. And most of my kids, if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't eat. Also, the district, the performance coach I told you about earlier, Matt talked to the district nutritionist and got her to get a grant for us that we get apples, bananas on Monday, apples on Wednesday, and 150 cartons of milk both of those days, and a case of string cheese. So next semester, he's going to try to hopefully double that, and we can get it 4 times a week as opposed to twice a week. So we're doing the best we can with what we got, but it's a tough road to hoe.
Excellent. Thank you, Coach. And again, we'll close out with my final 2 questions here. Do you have any advice for coaches looking to transition toward or get started at the high school level? And when I was typing this, I was trying to figure out a way to word it. What I mean in particular is maybe finding a way to work with an athletic director or local school district and getting positions created. Is there something that we can do collectively to help get these positions created and find? Because I think there's a tremendous amount of qualified and certified coaches that are looking to get started at the high school level, but the positions are scarce.
Yes, and I would agree with you. The thing I would say is don't be afraid to volunteer, because you got to put your time in. But the other thing, and what we have the most problems with, is nobody wants to get a teaching certificate. A teaching certificate would benefit you greatly. Even if you think initially you don't want that teaching certificate, it'll help you get in the door, because it's a lot easier for them to hire a teacher than to hire a coach. And the benefits of being a teacher is you're in the building with those kids all day, every day. And you get to build a relationship with those kids. And you can do that in a year. Accelerated, you probably could do it in 9 months. But definitely volunteer, and a teaching certificate would be my second thing. And like I did, go to the district office and talk to them. A lot of them don't understand the need for strength and conditioning. They don't understand what we're offering and the value. Fred Eves and I talk about that. They don't understand the value of what we bring to the table. So you have to be willing to educate the administrators, but you have to know how to talk their language too. And if you're a teacher, when you come from them, you come at them from a teaching point of view. You start talking about curriculums like Patrick McHenry got for me, and core training and rubrics. Then you get their attention, and especially when you can help special education students and ELL students. When you show them that, I can show videos, I can show moves, whatever. We can train people that a normal teacher would struggle with. So be able to demonstrate your value.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. In closing, this will be the last question I have for you, Coach. What can we do collectively, the members that are watching this right now, the coaches that are going to watch this after on YouTube, what can we do collectively to advance the high school level of strength and conditioning? And promote it, I should say. I know you just spoke about creating positions, and promote what we do at the high school level.
Yeah, again, I think that goes back to education. I mean, it's amazing the people that are administrators that don't understand what it is we do exactly. And one of the members of the E-board talked about this when we were there at the meeting where you presented at that Thursday night, I think. They talked about following the model that the athletic trainers followed. When you can show things that are happening in the weight room that's not as safe. You know, our PE teacher that watches the swimming pool, he's certified. Yeah. The athletic trainer, they're certified. Well, the person in the weight room, they should be certified as well. If we could get past this dinosaur mentality of the biggest teacher in the building or the football coach needs to be the strength coach, as ludicrous as that is. So it's education for the administrators in the district office as well as the building. I wrote articles for the Lincoln Journal-Star so the public could see it. And so educate the parents, educate the students. But that's what we have to do. You know, I think this field is wide open for us. I think the next big thing in high school strength and conditioning is, in the professional strength and conditioning is coming at the high school level. There's only so many collegiate and professional jobs, and they're done. Yeah. I mean, high school strength and conditioning, it doesn't get any better than this. We don't have to relocate. This house, my wife and I just bought in September, we'll be in here until I'm dead. We don't have to worry about the football coach getting fired and we got to relocate. And you get them kids at the time in their life where they need an adult role model the most. I mean, you can't beat this job. This thing, when the masses wake up and find out how good we got it, Coach Garrish, you and I, and everybody else on here, they're going to come run into this.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, we just keep educating those people. It'll happen. It'll grow exponentially.
Coach, that's awesome. That's a great way to get me fired up and to close this out. I want to thank you so much for taking your time. If you would, I'm just gonna shut down this recording, pause it, and we'll talk a little bit. And some coaches can call in if they had something they wanted to ask in particular and get their face on the screen. They're more than welcome to do it. But I know that I can speak on behalf of everybody that's in this roundtable right now. In saying thank you, and it's been an unbelievable experience for the last 50 minutes or so. I thank you a lot, Coach.
Coach Garrish, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.